Welcome to ICF Insights. I'm Tony Marchese. Well, today we're going to be talking about improving and sustaining teacher quality. And with me I have two experts that you're going to get to know very well today, Colleen Seremet and Bruce Haslam. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here. We have a lot to talk about, and I am so appreciative of both of you taking time to help in the preparation of this program and then also being guests on here today. So we will see what we can do in a half hour, but we may have to do this again. I understand that between the two of you, you have about 80 years of educational experience. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay. Most of my career has actually been in service in the state of Maryland. I began my career as a teacher and then became a counselor and then moved to the central office where I worked in the Human Resources Division, particularly focused on beginning teachers and support for them. I then became
and finally,
these criteria or characteristics been kind of formalized or organized in different states, or is this just your perspective on what is important?
Well, this list is generally supported by research, but what is also going on currently is that I think 35 or even more states are in various stages of implementing very sophisticated new educator evaluation systems. And in one way or another, these systems are holding teachers accountable for these various characteristics of teacher quality. And that, of course, is a very important development these days.
How were some of these criteria identified?
Well, as I said, they've been identified through research. You have leaders in the field who have developed particular frameworks that states have in one way or another found compelling. In the district where I live, the District of Columbia, they spent the better part of 2 years, I think, going through a number of these lists and distilling them down and coming up with a list of characteristics of teacher quality that now define DC Impact, which is their educator evaluation system.
This list it's very specific, and it's I mean there's a lot here. One of the things that I'm curious about is, what can we do to ensure that all teachers meet these criteria?
Well, we have a lot of options, and as I like to say, a lot of opportunities come with those options. Certainly, one of the areas where some improvements might be possible is in pre-service training, working with the colleges and universities to make sure that students who are being prepared to be teachers have a good sense of what these skills look like and have had some experience in practicing them in their various courses. And certainly districts and other entities can be very aggressive in recruiting good teacher candidates out of these pre-service programs. And of course we can probably pay teachers more. Sure. And that turns out to be an important factor, but for a lot of teachers, maybe not the most important factor.
The pay.
The pay.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, we can do a lot to improve working conditions. We talked a few minutes ago about some of the pressures that teachers face. Dealing with ways of reducing some of those pressures can help. We happen to think that one of the most important ways of improving teacher working conditions is to provide consistently high-quality opportunities for professional learning. Teachers want to learn. They want to learn to do a better job, and that's an important part of their work lives and their working conditions.
Do you find it to be easier to ensure that teachers meet these criteria in the pre-service kind of environment, or what about the teacher that's been in practice for 15 years or 20 years?
It's hard to answer that. Certainly I think we can do something to strengthen the pre-service programs, But there are large numbers of teachers in schools who have been there for a long time. As I think we're going to get to in a few minutes, they haven't necessarily had the best experience with professional development, but I think almost all teachers, when they have an opportunity to participate in high-quality professional learning activities, they welcome that and take advantage of it.
Well, let's go into this a little bit deeper. You know, I understand a key component of your work focuses on one element of teacher working conditions. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, Colleen, why don't you do that?
Well, the history of teacher professional development is perhaps not as stellar as those of us in the profession might like it to be. You talked about what could we do in pre-service programs. What could we do with, say, the teacher who is a 15-year veteran? One of the most important bridges is that transition from pre-service to in-service practice, the first, second, third-year teacher. And frankly, we haven't always done a very good job of that transition and supporting teachers from being trainees and learning to be teachers to suddenly being dropped into a classroom and, you know, here's your curriculum, here's your kids, good luck. And there is a very good body of research on how teacher professional development during that induction phase makes a huge difference, both to the teachers in transitioning into their profession and to their students, getting teachers to those quality standards that Bruce enumerated. They may know their content, but the practice of teaching, the pedagogy of operating, thinking on your feet with adolescent students and being able to bring the content and pedagogy together for your particular group of students is tough. Well, the history of professional development, if you talk to any teacher in the profession, they typically will share stories that it's just been a little off target. It hasn't quite met their needs. Traditionally, professional development meant that a district would set aside 5 days during the year and there would be workshops offered and all of the teachers would go for a day of workshops. Not necessarily the right content for
And Colleen and I have been working together on this now for the past, I guess, 7 or 8 or 10 years. But our perspective is that we need to think about high-quality professional learning in very systemic ways. We need to make sure that everyone who is a stakeholder is working hard to create environments in schools in which professional learning is valued and rewarded. We need to have a situation in which people who are providing it are sharing accountability for its quality. There needs to be a focus on resources available to support it. Those are just some of the basic principles that underlie a system of this sort, but there are also a number of particulars in that system that we think are important.
We actually tried to organize our thinking around not just what is high-quality professional development, but as Bruce says, how does that operate as a system? And so we isolated 6 elements that we think need to be in place. You've talked about some of them today, Tony. We start with teaching standards. What do we define as good teaching? The second thing is, there's a set of standards on what is high-quality professional development. Again, we've talked about that, what it is and what it isn't. Mm-hmm. But the third element is really the staff capacity. The history of PD is that there are lots of different players in this. There are school-level teacher coaches, there are district-level people, there are private providers, there are universities. So there are a lot of players who are out there providing teacher professional development. Are those partners working together, and do they have the capacity, both size and number of people and knowledge base? The fourth element is really professional development as a part of human capital management. Teacher certification policies, teacher evaluation policies, reward and incentive policies, promotion practices. All of those things work together in an organization, and professional development needs to be looked at and designed and implemented in that context of human capital management. The fifth element is really data. We talked a little bit about data on teacher quality, but we have data on student learning, we have data on teacher training programs, we have data on teacher placement, looking at data on professional development and how that data links in to those other data systems as well as financial management systems. And the sixth element is what Bruce alluded to a few minutes ago. It's really about resources. We think of resources often as money, but it's really people, time, money, and technology. And you need to think about all of those resources coming together as a system.
I think there's another point in all of this that we've run into any number of times, and that is, as you think about these systems, and you think about the things that need to be in place, one of the most important considerations is to think about the things you need to stop doing. What is getting in the way of consistently high-quality professional learning? Colleen talked about rewards and incentives as part of the human capital management system. One of the things that's very interesting is that in a lot of school districts where there is a lot of talk about high-quality professional learning, we discover that teachers get credit, pockets or islands of excellence all over the place, but this high-capacity system is effectively utilizing resources. It is stopping the things that aren't working, and it is focusing on supporting things that are consistently of high quality and making them accessible to all teachers.